Speaker Nancy Pelosi did the reality TV thing last night. Take a look at some of what she had to say on Top Chef.
So honored to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Padma. I'm delighted to be here. I've been a foodie for a long time. And as speaker, any meetings that we have, our motto is first we eat.
She was a judge last night. She chose the blue team. Tellingly, we're awash in reality TV shows here, from the Cupcake Show, but you don't expect Nancy Pelosi on the Real Housewives show. We're joined by Karen Tumulty of the Washington Post. JetBlue election, what do you think?
Well, I do think that it's really hard to find, anybody out in the country who's happy about much of anything. Certainly, I was traveling last week in Tom Perriello's district, one of the most endangered Democrats in Southern Virginia, and I think the mood is somewhat different from last August, where there was a lot of rage in the town halls, probably overplayed in the media. But there is a lot of dissatisfaction, whether you call it frustration or disgust. It's out there.
Yeah, and I wonder too about how Democrats get that, but I don't get the sense that there is a strategy to really channel that or deal with that. I mean, what they're trying to do mostly, they keep saying choice, not referendum, setting up what the Republicans would do. I don't know that gives voice to the frustration necessarily.
So I think the only strategy they have is to go, and I think you're going to see a lot of this out of the Republicans too, is just go as intensely negative on your opponent as you possibly can.
The other thing you have out there with Perriello, I think, is a third-party candidate. Is that going to play enough of a factor in that race for Democrats? Will the outlier Tea Party folks ride to the rescue?
Well, the only public poll that I have seen has suggested that the Republicans really have coalesced behind their nominee. At this point, he is up by 23 points in the most recent poll, and the independent candidate is getting in the low single digits. I think he's down there with undecided.
Wow. I want to ask you about Charlie Rangel, because he just, louder by the day. We saw this extraordinary speech he gave earlier this week on the House floor, his birthday party last night, a press conference today. What is his end game here? What is Charlie Rangel trying to accomplish? Is there a method to this madness?
Well, who knows? The one thing he is clearly trying to do is get through his primary, and so that whatever he does after that can be done on his own terms, as opposed to being driven to it by anyone else. This is a man with a long record of service, a very proud man who just doesn't want to be seen kind of dancing to anyone else's tune, which is why we saw him out there giving that truly extraordinary speech on the House floor the other day.
And his colleagues weren't happy about it. I mean, they didn't want it to happen, and they saw it was 37 minutes of cringing.
And, Nancy Pelosi then issues a statement saying basically this should be getting handled in the ethics process. I mean, it was a pretty clear rebuke to the former chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee.
And, to draining the swamp, is Rangel going to play nationally in the election? Or are people out in the country paying attention to this?
I was not really convinced that it would, but I do think what it does is it adds to a very, very corrosive narrative for the Democrats, because they're the party in power, that essentially the system is out there working for somebody else. It's not working for you. And I think that is where these ethics charges fit into the narrative. And certainly it's part of people's disgust. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I heard saying, there are all these bailouts. Where's my bailout?
Yeah, that's a line you hear again and again. And finally, just briefly now, the Democrats, despite all this bad news, they had a pretty good election night. The White House felt pretty good about getting their candidate and seeing some of the Tea Partiers win on the other side.
Yes, and I think we did see, that the incumbent is not an entirely endangered species, that there is still, an argument that you can make to the electorate that again, you're better than the alternative.
Right, yeah, exactly. It kind of happened, and they got him through, and they take a bit of a victory lap today in Colorado, a unity rally this afternoon. Karen Tumulty from the Washington Post, Post Politics. Thanks for being here. Love having you on, as always.
Great to be here.
That does it for this edition of Top Line. Check us out via Twitter. It's twitter.com/Rick Klein, twitter.com/ZByronWolf. You can always find twitter.com/John Carl. Ask him where he is. We haven't heard from him in a while, but click on us again tomorrow. Thanks.
Probably wearing a white suit out
there.
A
white suit and a cane. Yeah. Have you seen his cane?